Welcome back to the Consistency Engine Podcast. I'm your host, Dane Patton, and with me always is Chase Collier. How we doing today, Chase?
Doing great. Enjoying the sunshine and just making progress on things.
That's right. So we're based out of Lincoln, Nebraska, and we are in peak weather season for where we are right now.
Yeah, it went from trying to come out of winter to straight almost summer in the last week or two.
70s to 80s is perfect weather for me. Sun shining, blue skies, a couple little, I call them Toy Story skies, where you get the little white clouds in the blue sky. So
the little white puffy clouds.
Yeah. Beautiful right now. This episode of the podcast, I thought it would be a good one to talk about and talk about our purpose. How we do we find a purpose? How do you come up with the purpose that you that focuses everything that you're trying to accomplish? I think there's a lot of people out there that don't understand their purpose, and I was one of those people at one point in time. And I've had some people ask me well, how did you decide to do what you're doing? And it's I had to build this to create this purpose on what I want to do and what I want my life focused on. So I thought it'd be something good that we can talk about here.
And purpose is something that is probably going to be dynamic for a lot of people. It's not going to be on day one of a new journey or new path of life that you're like, this is my purpose, I know it, and it's never going to change. Purpose might change and evolve through time, because as you meet new people, you learn new skills, you get involved with different things, you might learn more about your purpose. And that's been something personally that I've seen just in my lens over the years.
Yeah, I think about my life in a couple different aspects. I think about what kind of purpose did I have before I had kids, and I can't tell you that I necessarily had a dynamic purpose. It was just trying to live my life and enjoy the times that I had with friends and all that kind of stuff. And then once I had kids, that's a built-in purpose for me. I built my own purpose to serve these children, and it gave me this higher calling. But there was plenty of times in my life, before I went through this personal development transformation, that I didn't really understand it. I had kids. I needed to take care of them. My responsibilities grew, and I had these children that I had to be ultimately responsible for. But I still didn't necessarily have a vision for what I wanted our family life to look like. And that wasn't really until I started to get serious about my health, started to get serious about my business, that purpose gave me something where I can serve others at a higher level.
On that point, Dane and I were talking that purpose isn't found, it is built. And probably looking through your lens as a parent, since I'm not one currently or yet, in the future it will be, but that built purpose for your family has probably changed. Like you said, when you first had your first son, you probably didn't know what direction. You knew you needed to take care of him, but you had to kind of build out what that purpose looked like and what that vision behind it would be.
Yeah, knowing you and your path that you've been on right now, I'm so excited when that moment does happen to you, how much life's going to change. And I've talked to plenty of people that are my age or maybe a little bit younger, and they haven't had kids yet. And then once that happens, it's hard to explain to somebody that hasn't gone through it. And it's literally like you flip a switch. You don't have a kid, and then you flip a switch, you have a kid, and then everything just changes in your life. And that happened for me. Granted, I was 19 when that happened in a flip switch, and I didn't know that it was going to happen. And because you unconditionally love something more than yourself, and you're responsible for it, and you just realize I've got to become a better person just to raise this child. I don't think every parent sees it that way, and I don't think that necessarily happens for everyone, but I think people that are called to higher things, that does happen.
you kind of have two choices on everything in life, and we're handed a lot of opportunities to build purpose. It's, do we take it or not? And there's parents out there who might have a different purpose, different alignment or something in their lives, but those who figure out the different pillars or things that they want to achieve and succeed in, fitness, family, business, their finances, there's so many different things that the purpose needs to be there kind of through all of them. It shouldn't just be one piece of it, but it also shouldn't be this one thing is going to get my full focus and purpose. It needs to be built around all of it, because we've talked many times with a foundation built in the sand or just a foundation built out of toothpicks, it's not going to last. And the people that are surrounding you and hoping to get responsibilities and duties done by you are going to get let down. And that's something that both of us hold very heavily, is we want to make sure that the people around us are getting the utmost service that we can provide.
Yeah, and when I think of purpose, that's what I think of: serving others. I've talked to people, and I've seen people that think like their purpose is to go make money, and to build wealth, or maybe go try to be famous or do stuff like that. And that's that sandy foundation that like people think that their purpose is to acquire assets and money and all this kind of stuff. But I've talked to plenty of people that are wealthy, and they say that there's plenty of times where they have as much as they want and they're still not happy, and it's because that isn't really a purpose. I think who was it? Zig Ziglar. It says you help more people get what they want, the more that you get what you want, and that's based on service. It's based on serving others. Servant leadership. That's why it's talked about on the personal development side so much, because the more that you give to others, the more that you're going to receive. It's just, that's how the universe works.
There's a lot of blend, I would say, between fulfillment that you need to find and your purpose. And in my journey into business, it started because we had the sports bar and we were essentially drowning in finances. So I got into entrepreneurship to make money. Like at that point, that was my purpose, was to make money and get bills paid and hopefully build a legacy. And the more I walk this path, the more I get so much fulfillment out of helping other people, and to a higher purpose than is just me. Because I can only go so far, knowledge can only go so far, same with all the different aspects of life. But when you are doing it to help serve other people, it's just so fulfilling. And this last week, when we were in Phoenix for a little trip, we got back home and I told my wife, Kat, after first day back to work, I'm like, I enjoy this, but being surrounded by people that I can help and guide and give experiences to and speak to and see them grow, that brings me so much more fulfillment than just doing my day-to-day work stuff.
Yeah, that's and I 100% agree with you there too. I have the privilege of having multiple employees, so I get to surround them every single day and try to pour into them, try to teach them, try to coach them, train them to be better versions of themselves. But then I also have a large family, so I get to do that every single day too. And then we, our local community, anytime that we get together, like we get to be that example, get to be those lighthouses for other people, and that's something I think is important, because I've seen people, get some sort of success, and then, like we've talked about before, they kind of vanish, and why don't they see it the same way that we do? Why don't they try to give back and be of value to those people that maybe they could really use that help?
More people should figure out what their true purpose is. And a few weeks back, my great aunt was in town, and she's great. Her husband did awesome. Her and her husband in business, and they found success. They found what they thought would be successful, in their lives. And she does not talk a lot to people about feelings and just things in general. And she came up to me and said, I love what you're doing. I wish I would have done stuff like that sooner, because they're in their 70s. They made a great life. They have had a great retirement so far. But she's like, I learned all of this knowledge and I never shared it. I didn't even think to share it to other generations and other people that could benefit from that. And that just hit home with me that people are watching. They're seeing what we're doing. They're seeing our purpose flow through our actions. And we don't get many thank yous. I don't need thank yous. I just want to see other people step up and find their purpose.
Well, and I think that's the big thing for me too. You know, when we share the knowledge and the information that we've been able to acquire through our journeys, and then see other people out there actually implementing that stuff. Like I've said it before, I get super jacked when I see people that I know that I have shared a message with at some point in time, and they're winning. And they're consistently winning. You know, just the other day when I was sitting in front of our org meeting, and I was just talking about how I stay consistent, because I've been able to break everything down into the smallest non-negotiable things, and I count those as wins every single day. And every time that I win, I gain a little bit more confidence. And one of the guys in the audience, he was like, I never thought about doing it that way. He's like, I'm always thinking about this large vision, and I'm always like coming from behind and feeling like he's not doing enough to get to it. And kind of like you talk about reverse engineering your day to say, okay, I'm proud of what I did, and I won multiple times throughout the day, and I'm a little bit closer, that 1% better, or however you want to the analogy that you want to use to achieve that bigger thing, that purpose, that vision that you have.
And on the purpose side, like you said, you can break it down, and some people watching may not know what their purpose is. That's part of why we're talking through it, because it will change, it will grow. You'll surround yourself with new people, and you'll figure out what that purpose is. And that's one of the things that we can't really tell our audience listening, hey, this is your purpose, because it is truly different for everybody. And goals and purpose should align a little bit, because if your goal is to have a company and have employees and be fit and have a good family life, your purpose is probably fairly on track with serving others and making sure that people are getting things out of you. But if your goal is to just be rich, jet setting, have the cars, have the homes, your purpose probably isn't as fulfilling. And there's no right or wrong purpose. It's just making sure that you can figure out what your purpose is.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing an interview where they were interviewing Jim Carrey, and he said he wished that everybody could have all the fame and fortune that they wanted, because once you did, you would realize that wasn't that important, and that didn't make them happy. And I took that to heart, and also because I've been exposed to other people that have, you know, multi-millions of dollars in their bank account, and they've exited for, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-figure companies and all this kind of stuff, and they could buy whatever they wanted. They could do just whatever they wanted. But I see those people continuing to go and help others, continuing to show up and be that best version of themselves. They didn't just go buy a yacht and stay in the ocean, you know, for the rest of their life. They continue to show up and help other people, you know, do whatever they can to help. And I was like, you know what? It wasn't about the money. It was about the pursuit of something bigger than themselves. And that you know, I don't have everything that I've ever wanted, but I want to act like that. I want to show up, and I want to help at whatever level that I'm at. If I can help somebody on my level or below me, great. And I'm learning from the people that are above me.
Money should just be used as a tool. And it took me a while to understand that money, like you said, money is not everything. Money doesn't truly make somebody happy. Money can help buy things, and it can help pay for expenses, but most people that are chasing money don't realize that they're chasing time. And those people that do have a ton of money or have exited, they now bought back their time. Their company is sold, they have money to not work again, but then they have the choice, are they going to be on their yacht in the ocean and be isolated from everybody, or are they going to give it back? And one of those two things is so much more purposeful and fulfilling than the other. But what does that look like for you? Is time is the most important thing, and what you do with that time can be spent on experiences, and it can be spent helping other people. And that has become our purpose, because we started this podcast to do so. But truly figuring out what is fulfilling for you is probably one of the hardest things to do, but it will be something that will, once you figure that out, it will help guide you probably through the rest of your life.
Yeah, we can't find it for you. You have to know a little bit about what you want, but then and try to look and think a little bit bigger. That's what this podcast is for those people that are interested in more and growing and that. And if you're listening to this, you're probably already thinking about that, or already have had visions or thoughts of or those dreams of what it is, or what those goals are that you want to achieve. And all of that's going to feed into that purpose. And then you continue to build it. Like I said, my purpose 10 years ago is completely different than it is now. It's been growing for the last 5 years, and it continues to get bigger. And I just recently I was talking about just kind of, every level you get to, there's more challenges that seem to arise, and there's new things, and a lot of people would see them as a negative. And I've been trying to just reframe, what those challenges. Those challenges, they were given to me because I've grown into the person that is responsible enough and capable enough to handle those. I'm not giving the challenges I have now are not the same challenges I had 10 years ago, because I was not capable of being able to, one, acquire that challenge, and two, capable of handling that challenge. And so every level that you grow, and you have to understand that there's going to be new challenges, but those are new opportunities for you to learn a lesson, new opportunities for you to serve at a higher level. And that's just one of the greatest things that I can think of when it comes to personal development and professional development, and whether you're building your family. Business to family, it's the same thing. You start a business and it's a baby. You have a set of challenges there too, and then as that baby grows, there's new things you got to be concerned about. The people that they're hanging around with, the ideas that's coming into their head, and the same thing with your business. As you grow, as you make some more money, you're like, well, now I've got this money. What do I do with it? Do I spend it on marketing? Do I spend it on training? All of that stuff. There's so many correlations.
With all of that said, there's a few different ways that I want to run with this, but one of them being like the different challenges that do come after you. On one side, when I started in business and still today, I view a lot of things as a video game. And I'm not a gamer myself, but we all grew up probably playing some sort of video game. And at each level, there's a new challenge. There's a new skill you need to learn. There's something that you didn't see before that you have to figure out before you can get to the next level. And depending on how good you are at the game, kind of dictates to what level you're going to get to. And that's very much how I see life and business. Is whatever is out in the universe keeps challenging us for each new thing that we are doing and trying to achieve. And you have to understand and be open to that, because normally the people that get stuck on one obstacle or one challenge, they just sit there, whether it's a good life or contentment. There's something that just restricts them to stay on that level. And if you can be somebody to understand your purpose and know that this is just a trial of sorts, you're going to advance to the next level and you're going to continue to do better with things. The other thing that I wanted to hit on was on the purpose side of things. If your purpose is helping others and serving others in some sort of capacity, it can go so many different ways. One thing that I will probably never be is a sports coach in any sport, just because I didn't grow up playing that much for sports. I golfed and I swam, but that's not team sports. It's not football or basketball. Like, we didn't need agility in golf to do well. But my serving others is helping others grow in the business space and personal development. If you're wanting to serve others and you're at different spots in life, you can always volunteer your time, because that's one thing that our local community always needs is more volunteers. There's dozens of nonprofits out there who do amazing things. And if your purpose is to truly serve and help people, why don't you go volunteer for some nonprofits? Because that is a good step in the right direction. You don't need to be on stage. You don't need to be being flashy. If your purpose is giving back, you should be open to doing that in silence.
Well, yeah, the need for like big brothers, big sisters, for stuff like that is always needed. And how can you give back? How can you show up? I mean, the acquiring wealth aspect will work towards that too. If I can get more wealth, how can I use that to help other people as well? How can I provide more opportunities? How can I, help fund different things for children or animals or whatever the cause is that speaks to you most, for sure. And then kind of going back to the whole coaching thing. You might not coach somebody in sports, but you can definitely coach somebody on how to create a business, how to run a business, how to own a business, all of those kinds of things. So yeah, coaching is a wide aptitude of different areas.
On the giving back side of things, when it comes to the money side of it, one thing a lot of people don't realize or talk about enough is how you can invest in something that becomes evergreen, that can give for years and years. If you look at the way that most scholarship funds are set up, let's say it's a $5,000 a year scholarship. If you invested $100,000 into some returning investment that pays 5% or more a year, that money that investment is making becomes evergreen for that scholarship. And if you're somebody who doesn't have a ton of money, or your goal is to donate a ton, you can start putting money into different investment vehicles that $10,000 invested could be $500 to $1,000 a year for the rest of your life, or through a trust for perpetuity. And if you want to give to colleges, to nonprofits, food kitchens, people in need, there's so many different avenues and ways out there to create a fund that will stay forever to help serve those people.
Yeah, that's definitely some good information to take away from this episode for sure. So, we're getting close to the end here, and I want to talk about some exercises or something we can do to find your purpose or build your purpose or that. And when you were talking, you're talking about doing things on your own in that. And I think a lot of it has to do with the people that you surround yourself with. And how do we build this mindset of that? Well, a lot of it comes by hanging around with people that have a purpose and are working towards it every single day. And just like when I said I was speaking to that group, like I was sharing some ideas that I was taught from somebody else, and I get to pour that into somebody else, and that was an idea that they never thought of before of how to look at something, and so that brings their level of thinking, their knowledge comes up. So I would challenge you to look in your local community and find a group of people or an organization that are focused on trying to help others grow. whether it's a book club, whether it's a networking group, and there's so many networking groups that are more transactional and superficial, but there is ones out there that are focused on helping people grow, not just, trying to get a sale, but giving people some knowledge and some opportunities to build your net worth, which, your network, and then build your net worth.
So something that just sparked in my head when I started on this business journey, and everyone has a different path. I started and I learned a lot, and I didn't think that I had value that other people didn't have, or knowledge that other people didn't have. Everybody that's listening or watching has something unique to them. They have their own journey, their own knowledge, their own stories, and all of those can be shared. It took me a long time to realize that people do care, and people can benefit from the stories, from the knowledge. And you may not be confident in yourself, but you can still have stories and knowledge to share with others that would benefit other people, because we're all at different spots in life. And there's times that I hear something from a friend that we may be on different paths in lives. They may be an employee. They may just have started up a business, and I still learn stuff from them. So don't think that you don't have value that can be portrayed in your purpose.
Yeah. Being open to sharing. That's a huge thing. Most of the information we talk about, I've said it plenty of times on this podcast, and you're going to hear it more times, is this isn't anything new. We're really trying to remind you of something that maybe you've heard 3 or 4 times, and then maybe this time it's going to connect because you read it in a book, or you heard it on stage, or maybe you heard it on another podcast or something like that. But then you hear it here, and that same information could hit you differently, or it might just be, I needed to hear that 7 times before it actually clicked in. Because that happened to me all the time. I'll be in so many different avenues, and I'm like, you know what? I've heard this before, but this person, how they phrased it hit me at the right time for me to want to take action on it.
Right time, right place, right person.
Yep.
There's so many different variables that it comes down to, but everybody has a purpose. You just need to find what yours looks like and what you get fulfillment out of, because we want everybody to have a fulfilled life, as fulfilling as possible. And if you can figure out what that looks like for you, you're going to have a very happy life.
That's what it's all about. That's what we're here to do. So hopefully this was made some impact. Maybe it got you thinking a little bit about what your purpose is, and hopefully you have a purpose, and you, if you want to share it with me, I would love to hear what your purpose is, and however I can help, help you in your purpose and feed into that some more. I would love to know. So reach out to one of us, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Consistency Engine podcast, and we'll see you here on the next episode.